Hello, I'm Joel Bloom, president of the New Jersey Institute of Technology. We pride ourselves on being part of the Newark community and its advancements in technology, innovation, and the growth of the city. That's why we are proud to partner with the Caucus Educational Corporation to produce One-on-One with Steve Adubato right here at NJIT. We hope you enjoy this special series.
Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJIT has been provided by NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, RWJ Barnabas Health, Delta Dental of New Jersey. Everyone deserves a healthy smile. Valley National Bank, Verizon, the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., and by Adler Aphasia Center, helping stroke and brain injury survivors recover their speech. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com, covering all NJ has to offer, and by Insider NJ.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, this is Steve Adubato coming to you from the campus of NJIT. That's the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Why are we here? This is, in fact, the Voice Summit, sponsored by Amazon Alexa. You've got about 2,500 folks from all over the country, programmers, people involved in something called artificial intelligence, all about voice. What does voice mean in our lives today? What could and what will voice mean in our lives tomorrow? That's what the people are here talking about at NJIT at this Voice Summit. We'll be interviewing those folks and bringing everything you've ever wanted and needed to know about voice to you right now. Janeen Uzzell. She is a former head of women in technology at GE and currently emerging market and tech consultant. You've had a fascinating career. Born and raised at the Beth Israel.
In Jersey.
And then we lost you. Where'd you go? No, another hospital on the other end of the city.
It's okay.
Okay, where'd you go after that?
Still Jersey strong. So I grew up in Plainfield and went to Mount St. Mary's.
I went to Essex Catholic.
Okay,
my high school doesn't even exist anymore.
Oh, well, mine still does.
Okay,
so,
good.
I went to the Mount and then left the Mount and went to North Carolina A&T for undergrad, studied engineering. But I have not lived in New Jersey in quite a while. My family's still here, but it's been a long time.
You know, one of the things you were just telling me before we got on the air, which I want to share with our audience, the whole question of artificial intelligence and its connection to quote-unquote diversity.
Yep.
Like, so artificial intelligence, you would, in layperson's language, you define it as?
So ultimately, it's technology that we're designing to really solve tons of problems, all kinds of tasks that we're doing. But the message that I talk about, as I'm not a coder, haven't programmed in many years, what I'm focused on is that the technology is subject to the software. The software is subject.
People come here sooner or later.
The person that's sitting there programming it, and if you want to have a full user experience and really touch the global world that we know that's going to be the end users of this technology, we've got to have diversity across the board with who's programming, diversity in our teams, who's designing the products. We just got to make sure that we have an audience or that we're touching a broad audience by having a broad audience of teams.
Has that been a challenge?
That is a huge challenge.
Because?
Well, it's certainly not because you can't find diversity in the programs. We're going to school, we're graduating women and diverse cultures, but, you know, I think it's just diversity as a practice is not a norm. And
back up. Diversity as a practice is not a norm?
It's not a norm.
Everyone talks about it.
It's not what we think about truly every day. It's not. It is not. Even for someone like me, I may think and be comfortable in my audience, in my world, and so I could maybe just think about women in tech or women from New Jersey or African-American women. It is not as much of a practice as we would think. And so it's got to become the standard of how we work.
It affects quality,
depending on it.
See, what's fascinating to me is that people say, oh, diversity is a really good thing, as if somehow by itself, just the goal of diversity is nice. That's not what this is. This is, if you don't have a diverse group of people involved in artificial intelligence and engaged in the software, that means the software and the ultimate artificial intelligence is like this, not like this.
Right.
Am I oversimplifying?
No, you're
it?
absolutely right. And there are some instances where it's intentional. There are definitely instances where racism bias has intentionally been put into code. And then there are a majority of instances where it's not intentional.
Do people know it when they're doing it?
Sometimes the practice can be that programming can be the result of racism or even influence racism. But the majority of the time, it's not intentional. It's not meant to cause harm. It's just that when you don't have a broader way of thinking, and I'm talking about age, culture, where you grew up, your sexual orientation, all of that matters if we're going to have a full-blown product.
Give us a concrete, relevant, understandable example of what could happen if the coding, if the software, if all that in voice is done by a group of a homogeneous population, very narrow, whatever, and not a truly diverse population. Give us a concrete example.
So an example is, you're having this conversation with Alexa, and she doesn't understand the dialect or the tone of your voice. She doesn't understand words that you might use that mean one thing and mean something else in a different culture. She might not know the difference between how to make kale, sauteed kale, or collard greens. What's the recipe of what I was brought up on? Or Alexa, how do you make cornbread? Maybe she's going to teach me how to make a muffin because she doesn't understand that.
Let's stay on diversity. In my family, growing up, Alexa, what's the best way to serve scungili?
See?
What's going to happen?
What's a scunge or a chili?
So Alexa may have, depending upon who is involved in the programming, may have potentially a narrow ability to communicate, and you go outside that?
Absolutely.
But if the people come from all different walks of life, it increases the chances that conversation, if you will.
And it creates an inclusion and a fairness for everyone. Everyone wants to be able to find themselves, and if AI is happening, we can't stop it, right? It's going to happen.
Artificial intelligence.
So it's our responsibility as technologists, as programmers, as people that are running businesses or leading teams to ensure that the best possible product is what is represented. That's our job. It's our responsibility. We have to make sure that we are being a reflection of the world that we want to serve or that we want to sell to. And we alone can't do that. I can't do that myself. I can't even speak for every person that's a part of my culture.
Yeah, but you can also, but what you are doing is saying, hey, wait a minute, let's make sure we do everything possible to have all those voices heard. My question is, how responsive have most people in the voice community been to the conversation as a consultant you are driving right now?
Very ahad, like,
hey, I never thought about that.
I didn't think about that. Or, we know it's there, what do we do? And some of the opportunities are very tactical. Like if you're talking to a business, it's very tactical. Where do you recruit? Where are you getting your population of the future employees? Millennials and the folks that we're hiring now, they're in very different places, studying in different locations.
That's right.
So what are you willing to do to stretch?
Sure.
Are you training the workforce that you currently have to be the managers that need to be in place for the diverse teams that you're hiring? Right? So that they want to stay. What kind of work are we giving them to do? What are we letting them design? So all of these things, we're finding that people they're very interested and they want to know how to do it better. Because you know what? If you don't, the bottom line is impacted.
If the product is suffering and...
then we're not going to sell it.
Right.
And don't we want to make money? Isn't that why we're here? We're here to deliver a great product
and make a difference.
get paid for it.
You're good.
Oh, thank you.
You made my job easy.
You're good too.
You still have the coolest glasses.
Thank you.
I've been doing this for 25 years. Not only great glasses, but great conversation.
It's good to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Aisha, Glover, President and CEO, Newark Community Economic Development Corporation. Aisha, let me ask you, this Voice Summit means what to the city?
It means a lot to the city. It's putting us on the map in a different way. It's really exciting. You can feel the energy to have this many people descending upon the city. We were shooting for 1,500. We're now at 2,400.
What?
So yes, now we're at a moment of, oh my goodness.
Was this the place to be?
This was the place to be. This was the only place to be. NJIT just really playing a lead role in educating the next generation around all things tech and STEM related. And then they also built this brand new gorgeous facility, a wellness and event center, but this is the exact type of events that they had in mind when they were building it. So besides being in a great institution, just being in a city like Newark with the tech infrastructure, with the vibe, everything, it's the perfect storm, really.
We'll do the vibe in a second. Go back. You said something before that,
Yeah.
the tech infrastructure.
Yes.
We've talked to Dr. Joel Bloom, president here at NJIT, about that. From your perspective, what is the tech infrastructure and why is it even relevant to a discussion of economic development?
For sure. I usually joke and say that we're built for this. We have the backbone. The fact that Broadridge moved from Jersey City, Broadridge is the country's largest fintech firm, moved from Jersey City to Newark just because of the data and tech infrastructure where every nanosecond makes a huge difference for business and for their bottom line. Our internet speeds are unmatched across the country. And so leveraging that, tapping into that to think about how we attract corporations, attract events like this, and really make sure that we're kind of at
media.
the epicenter. For sure, for sure.
Is it largely a marketing and branding effort?
It is, especially for a city like Newark that hasn't always had the best reputation, right? People don't always think about tech. They don't always think about innovation. They don't think about
sometimes.
They think about
those
other
who
things,
don't know.
right? Exactly. Those who don't know. So
Those who think
events
they're
like
funny.
this, right?
Sorry, I won't go there.
Give us an opportunity to help rebrand the city and make sure people are clear on everything we have to offer.
You know, we're doing this. We're doing these interviews here at the Voice Summit at NJIT. The whole Amazon question
Sure.
is out there,
Sure.
right? Newark's in the game.
We are, very much so.
See, it may or may not. We don't know what's going to happen, right? Fair to say?
Fair to say.
But to be in the game,
Yes.
to be in that game,
Yes.
with all the cities, all the regions, all the places across the country means what?
Newark stands out. Newark stands out, not just on that list of 20 cities across the country. There's something that Amazon saw in the city that maybe others haven't, right? And so just being on that list sends a very, very powerful message. We're frequently saying, you know, if you're checking all the boxes in business school about, you know, where you should cite your company, you're looking at talent, you're looking at location, you're looking at accessibility, transportation, all those factors, right? Newark is it. But the moment you say Newark, folks are like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And that's part of the Yes Newark brand that we've been trying to push out and make sure folks understand.
Aisha, let me ask you this. How do you attempt to ensure that the technological boon, if you will, the economic development going on downtown, everything happening around us, the fact that this is going on here, that Amazon Alexa sponsored this event here at NJIT, you know the question.
Yes.
How do you get it out to the neighborhoods? In my old neighborhood in the North Ward of
Right.
Newark, Ironbound, just down the street, the Central Ward, the
Right.
South Ward, the West Ward.
Yep. You have to make it real.
Struggling communities.
Absolutely. We have to make it real. And I think that having leadership like the mayor's, where it's very much front of mind, it's not an after the fact, oh, and then how do we take care of the neighborhoods? It's front and center, and we're thinking about this right from the beginning. So a great example are all the digital kiosks that are going up around
break
the
that
city.
down. What are they and why is it relevant to community folks?
Sure. So the digital kiosks are currently in London and in New York City and now going to be installed in Newark starting this fall. And so they're kind of these monstrous kiosks that will line the streets that provide free public Wi-Fi, information, and really bringing the smart city components to life. So we could do everything from monitor air quality to traffic sensors and really provide communication to the community. So the fact that those are going up not just downtown, but along the corridors in every
neighborhoods?
ward. Absolutely. And that was very purposeful, very intentional, making sure that we're bringing that information and that level of resources and free Wi-Fi to the community is kind of a no-brainer. So making sure that visually people see the impact and feel the impact, and it's not just kind of lip service.
You know, what else is really interesting is, for those of us who know the city pretty well, you know that we are in an area, University Heights, if you will. From your view, Aisha, what is the role of institutions of higher learning in driving economic development?
So we sit in the center of the country's largest talent pool and the most diverse. So Rutgers, year over year, is ranked the most diverse university.
U.S. News and World Report says it every year.
That's it, you got it. So I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah,
here,
right.
right?
I am the choir. But tell other folks.
So what that means is really access to talent and a diverse pool of talent in sectors that don't always have the best reflection of diversity. So that becomes even more critical for tech, even more critical for a company, let's say like Amazon, to make sure that they're, yeah, absolutely. It's very attractive and it's necessary, and it's why folks really believe that they're even searching for a second headquarters, that, you know, it's really a talent play. And so we have the largest and the best talent right here in the city of Newark.
Aisha Glover is an ambassador for the city. Her official title is President and CEO, Newark Community Economic Development Corporation. Aisha, I want to thank you every time you join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We not only learn something new, we appreciate the city even more. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Stay with us right after this. We'll be back.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
This is a fascinating segment on a lot of levels. We want to welcome two of our special guests, and I'll tell you about the gentleman on my right. This is Diane Hettington, Director of Health and Wellness at a little company called
Prudential.
Yeah, what do you guys do? I'm joking. And this is Thomas Chappell, who is a technologist at Prudential, and Thomas is working with Tyler because Thomas has a hearing issue, correct?
That's correct, yes, I'm deaf. I've lost my hearing, yes.
Okay, so this segment, as we were getting ready for it, what's so fascinating about it, we're talking at the Voice Summit. Thomas has a powerful voice. He has important things to say, but the question is, what technology is available to make a difference in the workplace so that his voice can be heard?
That's
Talk
correct.
to us, and then we'll talk to
correct.
Thomas.
Yeah, so the first thing that I always like to communicate is that Prudential is so interested in getting the best and the brightest talent. So we're always looking for the greatest talent that we can find, you know, as any other corporation, to service our customers, to be successful for our shareholders and our stakeholders. And what we're finding is that there's such a huge community of differently abled individuals that aren't tapped into in the workplace. The unemployment rate is tremendous compared to the other unemployment rate of the general population. So how can we reach that voice? How can we bring in that talent and help those individuals be successful and make Prudential
Which also helps Prudential and helps the people you serve every day.
Of course, it helps us reach our business goals.
So, Thomas, there are a couple of technologies that are helpful to you. One is called Video Relay Service, VRS, correct?
Yeah, VRS, yes. Video Relay Service, like you said. That's if I wanted to call an individual or if I wanted to call into a meeting, I'd have a screen that I could pull up on my iPad or an app where an interpreter will come up from a certain company. You have an account with that app, and so Prudential provides me with that. So I'd have a meeting with I could call into. It's also like FaceTime almost. So I'd have an interpreter appear on the app. The interpreter will call into the meeting for me and talk with the individuals who are in the meeting. They'll relay and interpret everything back and forth to me. So I feel like I'm in the room.
What I'm curious about is how have you, Thomas, been able to participate in the Voice Summit?
Right, so right now I'm using my phone to text back and forth with individuals. We're able to gesture back and forth sometimes. Sometimes I bring in an interpreter, will follow me around. They'll go around with me all day so I can talk to people, learn about different technologies. I'll use VRI as well, another technology, video remote interpreting.
Right.
That's where I can call and connect to an interpreter through a device. And they'll follow me, and I can speak directly to that interpreter. They can hear me on the iPad or whatever device I'm using. I can sign directly to them, and they'll speak to the individual who's also with me. It's like the same thing as having a real interpreter, but on technology.
What about for the other folks at Prudential who are taking advantage, in a good way, of Thomas's input or engaged by Thomas? How do you do anything to help them be able to communicate as effectively as possible as they need to with someone who has a hearing issue?
Sure, and we have other individuals that are differently abled at Prudential as well. So we have employees who are blind, we have employees who happen to use a wheelchair to navigate. So
true diversity.
True diversity, because many times we think of diversity as race or gender, etc.
It's way more than that.
It is way more than that, and as I said, there's 20% of the population of the U.S. are people that are differently abled.
20%, 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. So and again, on my mantra, we want to have all individuals at Prudential to be able to contribute. As you can see,
there's a lot to contribute.
A lot to contribute. So to answer your question, what we do is we start by going to work groups and talking more about. We give them the statistics, we give them, the numbers, and then we talk about the value that individuals that are a little bit different, differently abled or have diverse abilities can bring to the workplace. And we do some etiquette sessions, just making people feel more comfortable because many times...
Make them feel more comfortable?
Well, making everyone in the workplace feel comfortable.
What about Thomas?
And Thomas as well. We work with all employees. But we begin before individuals who are differently able to come into the workplace because it's unfamiliar to many people in the workplace.
I'm going to, if I can ask Thomas.
Sure.
If I can ask you, Thomas, how comfortable, are there times that you don't feel comfortable in the workplace, engaging, participating, conversing? And if so, what would cause that?
Yeah, fine, sure. Of course, there's sometimes I don't feel comfortable, but that's anywhere. That's any time.
And that's any one of us, by the way.
That's true. That's true.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Communication breaks down sometimes. It depends how a person interacts with me. Sometimes an individual make me feel very comfortable. Like at Prudential, I feel very comfortable. If I go to a meeting, I just say I'm deaf, and I say, "Do you mind speaking louder? Do you mind emailing me notes, or do you mind IMing me?" And everyone's very accommodating. They say, "Sure, that's no other problem." But at other places, they always understand that. But the goal is to make us equal. In my personal life, outside of work, if I go out to a restaurant or if I go to some place where an individual has no experience with people who are deaf, they're often shocked by the cultural meeting. So they have to figure out how to converse with me. It's like any place. Yeah, it happens all the time.
Where does your confidence come from?
Well, really? I think a lot of it depends on you're comfortable. I'm comfortable in my comfort zone. Yeah, I'm just comfortable out of my zone.
No. Growing up, where did your sense of confidence come from that you knew and you know you have a powerful voice that must be heard? It didn't happen by accident.
Right, I noticed that when I was very young, I was going to deaf school. I was a student there, and I transferred and actually joined public school where I was mainstreamed. And I noticed I wasn't very shy. I was very active. I wanted to be involved with the other kids. So I would always make contributions then, and I could gain the confidence, and ever since then I've been rolling.
and he's still making contributions today.
A lot of contributions.
This has a personal impact on you too, doesn't it?
It does.
It means a lot to you personally.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
It's my passion. It's
Because?
what I do. Because we have to value everyone. And so the more that we can do to show Thomas that he's valued and show other employees the value of everyone, no matter what their diversity is. And I think I have a lot of passion for it because it is the great last frontier in the area of diversity.
You have had a big impact today, and you have had a big impact today. Diane, Thomas, Tyler, thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato at NJIT has been provided by NJIT, RWJ Barnabas Health, Delta Dental of New Jersey, Valley National Bank, Verizon, the law firm of Gibbons PC, and by Adler Aphasia Center. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because within state it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.